Hello, everyone, and welcome to another conversation. This is Giulia, and I'm co hosting the session again with Marlinda. Um, Today or tonight, depending on where you're at, we're talking about conversational AI documentation. So, this is a topic very near and dear to a lot of conversation designers, engineers, product managers, and all sorts of people who collaborate around conversational AI. It's also sometimes perceived as a little bit of a boring topic, but I think we can all agree like a topic that no company has fully nailed ever, or uh, maybe we'll find out tonight like someone of us has. So I'm very excited to try to unpack this together, especially now that we're moving into LLM. So it's a whole new field and way of documenting, but maybe there are still practices we can take over from like NLU based systems we've used in the past or are still using. But before we get directly into the topic, let's do a round of introduction, and maybe we can start from Emily.
Hi, yep. So I'm Emily, and I'm a conversation designer. I've worked in both like the more traditional chat and voice systems, IVRs, and now I primarily work in LLM based experiences.
Great. Carla, do you want to go?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Carla. I'm a conversation designer, and same as Emily, I've worked with mostly NLU-based systems in the insurance and smart home domains. I relocated from Germany to the US a year ago, and so I've kind of missed the transition to LLM-based work because of the break that I had to take because of that. But yeah, I've been trying to actively upscale my knowledge when it comes to LLMs, and I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. Abhinav?
Hello everyone, I'm Abhinav, currently working as a senior software engineer in Zalando. I am working on LLM powered assistant. I don't know if you guys use it, Zalando assistant, and yeah, I'm working on this since it was a proof of concept, and it's been 2.5 years continuously working on the LLM experience, bringing all those experience to the customer in a very chatty way where you can just have a conversation and get your favorite products, whatever you like. And yeah, since then it was a great journey for me to work on this. And yeah, I'm looking for an interesting conversation, also a different part from different participants here. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Love Zalando's assistant. Really cool. And Sarah?
Hi, thank you, Giulia. Well, my name is Sara. I'm a digital experience designer with a focus on conversation since 2020. So I've sort of also got to live the whole transitions before and after GPT. And now I'm also transitioning to project manager in a consultancy agency. So yeah, let's see. I'm especially curious what you mentioned at the beginning, Julia, of if any company has sort of settled this big elephant in the room, which is documentation.
Yes. I'll be curious to hear that. And yeah, I guess like one of the things that got me starting to think about this, aside from like the fact that, as Emily was saying to me before, like we all talk about this all the time, like it's always top of mind to think about how to better document things and so on. But particularly as we're seeing all like in the last years or so, or are still seeing like this transition from like traditional rule-based systems to LLMs. I'm wondering if each of you are seeing this transition, like how has this affected also the way you document things? Like, are you documenting different things, or what are the key differences for you in this aspect? Maybe we can start from Abhinav.
Yeah, definitely. So the major difference that I have noticed in the documentation is that we are documenting well now, because that document will be somewhere somehow feed to another LLM agent to do some operations, or do some knowledge graph, do some lag on that documentation. So if I give you an example, let's suppose I created a certain feature or certain capabilities in my system, and if I do not document it well, tomorrow a new engineer will come and he will try to do some feature development on that, and probably he will take use of the co-pilots, all the co-pilots that is available in the market, because it's the way that we are working. And when you give this documentation to the co-pilot, and if it is not well written, then co-pilot will also have a list documentation. So in that case, it will miss most of the important factors about it, what the feature is and how it work under the hood, and it will basically maybe give some uninformed or take the uninformed decision. So that's the, I feel very important right now to document everything in a way more stronger way that we were doing previously, because it's going to feed to some systems, AI system basically.
Yeah, I think I want to add on to that and say that I think like the reasoning, so also we're documenting kind of what we're doing, but it's also the why behind it and what happens after. So maybe we also document some of those responses, because now the exact responses aren't exactly mapped beforehand, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen. So I think now, instead of like record keeping or like a handoff document, this is more of a living document, and it's going to focus more about clarity. So I think you even touched on like reproducing. So you want to make sure that your documentation is readable, understandable, but also someone else can jump in and like reproduce what you're doing and fully understand it. So I think the why behind it is also like part of that new part to documentation.
Yeah, I think we're more designing the purpose of or designing the behavior of the bot instead of defining exact conversation paths and exact outcomes. So yeah, just to add that.
Because here we're especially talking about prompting. Is that right?
I mean, you tell us, what are you doing now that is different? Like it might be prompting, it might be articles that you're documenting, it might be, or you're still maybe documenting things like the old way. I'm curious to just hear what's your experience.
So bear with me, because I'm coming more from project management perspective, and then I'm thinking about the whole process, no, of starting in conceptualizing a conversational solution to implementing it. So it's like the moments in which you are collaborating with business and defining a bit the logic of the use cases, that in a way it's sort of the same, right? The steps or the methodology, it really doesn't change, because it's a strategy, no? That's in a way. The main difference will be when you're thinking about approaching the development and the implementation phase, because now you no longer have to train a system to learn to understand what the user is saying. So you don't need to feed it with like 1,000 words or 1,000 lists of sentences to match with an intent, but then rather you have like a logic behind the use case and how you want the system to behave, no? So you have instead of intents, you have use cases, or instead of entities, you have variables, because you need to collect at the end. I mean, if you want to buy a ticket, no, you still need a certain information to be collected by the system. So in a way, for me, the essence is the same. It really doesn't change. What it changes are the terminology that we're using, no? And a bit probably for our team, something that is taking us a bit of time to sort of ground. It's how we're changing also the flow documentation, because it's nothing static. It again it's variables, no? And we are calling APIs, or we are retrieving information from a rack system. So it's a it becomes a closer collaboration with the developers also to define the architecture that sort of lays the foundation of the system. But I don't know how others are feeling about this as well.
Yeah, I would say you still need to understand the conversation as a whole, like just the same as before. Like if you don't have to map it out the same way, but you have to understand how to like what to build, what kind of guardrails to build for the bot, and what kind of like scenarios to build in which the bot can move within. So just because we don't actually design the conversations anymore doesn't mean that the knowledge about the bot doesn't have to be the same.
Yeah, makes sense. And in terms of like challenges, like what is top of mind for you of like something like you still are trying to figure out for documentation in your conversational AI projects, if it's like in the first parts and the second parts, like wherever along that project it is, what comes to mind in terms of challenges?
I can add here. So the documentation and the prompting, I always consider these two are two different things. Documentation is a separate topic itself. Prompting is now slowly we started considering as a code. Like if we prompt to act some of the certain features of behavior for a particular assistant, and if we are changing the prompt, it's equal to changing the code. It may not break any UI thing, it may not break the application, but it changes the user behavior if we change the prompt. So it may be after changing some simple prompts, it could be the reason like customer is able to find what they desire in 4 conversation, like 4 messages in 4 iteration. If we change it, maybe it took 15. We never know how it will impact. So any prompt changes that we do, and like it is a learning for us. Initially, we have started doing it, the prompt changes directly, and now has been to done like A/B test. So anything you are changing, it has to go through the A/B test and see what are the numbers that is impacting. Especially, we also evaluate the number of conversations the user had it, right? So maybe you reach something, see the product in first 2 interaction. Maybe you reach it after 10 interactions. So those things that really matters. So changing the prompt is equal to changing the code. Although it does not break anything, but it breaks the behavior. That's what I believe.
One question, Abhinav, because
Yeah.
you're mentioning that you're testing the different prompts with real users.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
And so you're keeping tabs of like an A and a B version, and you know like who's been through the A and who's been through the B,
Yeah.
and you know also how to easily roll back to whatever.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Is that what you're seeing as well, Sarah?
Sorry.
Giulia, you said Sara?
Yeah, I was wondering because Sarah jumped in and asked about this, if that's what she's seeing as well.
I mean, definitely, I totally agree with Abhinav that one of the big challenges is prompting versioning, no? and keeping track of all the versions and I mean, I don't know about your experiences, but even changing a comma can break it or make it, and it's very sensitive in most of the time. So I'm keeping track of all the prompts that you've been writing and modifying, and what effects it's having on what. It's definitely a big effort there, and I don't have the key yet to that. I mean, it's just an extra 5 for now.
Yeah, I don't have the key to it either. I wish I did. We'll get closer, I think, because everything is changing all the time and there's updates. But I think the versioning is difficult when you have multiple people making changes maybe, or also I think depending on like what your use case is and who is like who, I don't know, I guess what you need to document for like who the user reading the document is, like what does QA need, what does your engineer need, what do other designers need to see. So I think making sure you have enough information, but it doesn't get like too chaotic. So organizing it in a way that makes sense. But I think the biggest thing is versioning, because I don't know about everyone else, but I feel like I get really excited when I see a positive change, and then I want to adjust a lot of things in the prompt, but you can't do that because then I won't know what change made that positive impact, or maybe I need to roll back to another version. So I feel like sometimes I get too excited and there's too much going on in my mind, and I need to figure out a way to document that.
Yeah. I think documenting those things definitely requires a lot of discipline. Like you have to be very, very on top of everything and keep yourself in check to write everything down, no matter how small it might seem. And also, I think like when it comes to versioning systems, I think like a simple change log is like so helpful already. Just the date, what was done, and the purpose, or what we expected from it, is like so helpful, because like no matter how much you think you will understand what happened 2 weeks ago, you will simply not. And,
Yes, you will not.
What I'm hearing from a lot of you, that I find really interesting, is like documenting so that people understand what you're doing, so that people can jump in, Emily, as you said, but also so that people know what you're doing and that they don't jump in also to undo everything that you're doing. It's really interesting because now we all can come in and do a thing, because now we're all kind of like doing each other's jobs. Documenting is so, it's, in my experience, has always been the last thing on people's mind. They're just like, we just gotta put it out. Like, why spend documenting? I'm gonna change it again. But now it's so much more important than ever because of this. And you want to be able to roll things back. So yeah, loving everything that you're all saying. A question I'd like to ask, are we all doing 100% LLM, or is there someone here on the call doing hybrid? Because I know not everyone has adapted because of tools and resources that maybe the company has. Some are still, I know out there, just doing intent-based. I'm curious if you've worked doing hybrid, how do you combine the rules and how do you document the handoffs between that kind of experience?
I have a case in which, it's not, we have fixed flows, but we are using LLMs to understand the user's intent in case it sort of falls back from the steps that have been designed. And we just have like a document from the prompt, and the rest is a fixed flow. Right now it's in Miro, but this is how we are combining it. And then in Confluence we describe, no, here you can find the flows, and here you can find the prompt, and this is how the system is working, and how is it working in the architecture. But
I think. Oh, sorry about that.
No, I think that
you want to continue?
Is to completely leave fixed flows for now, but it seems that at least public institutions are sort of reluctant to go with a full AI solution because of hallucinations still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's about documenting what is fed to the LLM, and like in contrast to what the NLU is handling, and vice versa, like how they interact. And yeah.
I would like to add more on the hybrid part. So it is still I believe it's a hybrid because the logical flow of a conversation is still controlled in a logical, predefined way. So first conversation hits, we first check, okay, it's a malicious classifier or what user wanted to do. Is something he's talking that we do not support, right? Then we check, okay, is something that he's talking that we support. Then we also try to find the intents, like he can talk about 10 random things, what he is talking about. But to finding these in the previous dialogue trees days, it was like just a dialogues. But right now, it's a different LLM-based systems. So first system defines, okay, it's a green, go ahead. Second system define, okay, it's talking about this topic. Then third system define, okay, it's talking about this topic. Then we have predefined set of a small assistant that say, okay, if you're talking about this topic, then that's how the conversation will flow. So the logical decision is still there, and it's like predefined, predetermined. I would say, yeah.
And so you're keeping track of this in also in the same way as you're keeping track of like the prompting and all the other pieces for the LLM component?
Yep.
Okay. And is that also in similar, so we heard like something more like a sheet, or what is it looking like for you?
It's not a sheet for you. So for us, we use like Git and that MD file markdown format, and we just add all the prompts there, and from there we feed it in the system during the runtime.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah, it
that's
also helps to maintain the histories and if we are making changes, why it has been made, and what was the change when it was made, when this was deployed, and then everything get tracked into the whole, as a code change flow, you can say.
yeah. I'm seeing this best practice come around in this space. Carla, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I just think that like a Git style system is like it's so helpful in this instance because you can really see or compare the two versions and see very clearly what was done and what had an impact on the changes that you can see. Yeah, so really helpful.
Nice. And yeah.
I was just going to say, Richard had a comment. The question comes down to, I kind of wanted to go back to this because the question comes down to who owns a prompt, UX engineering or PMs? Let's talk about that. I love how everyone started smiling.
That's the interesting question. It's a nice question too.
I don't have an answer to that yet, but I think when it came to design documentation for NLU systems, like no one wanted to have anything to do with it. Like all the engineers were happy to let us designers handle the flows, and the business people didn't want to work in those and as well. But yeah, now I don't think ownership is as clear, and I think those are fights that need to be fought because it's a very like prestige related role also.
Carla's ready to throw hands. Yes, like everyone all of a sudden is becoming a prompt engineer. I mean, everyone's trying to also align themselves to AI, which makes sense. Sorry, I derailed the next question, I think, Giulia. Or did anyone else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I wanna advocate for the. Sorry, Abhinav, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So I don't know the actual owner, but the engineers are not the owners of the prompt. That I can clarify. Like as engineers, our jobs are like to updates and give you the impact. Okay, when you change and give you the capabilities to measure the impact in a meaningful way so that you make the prompt changes in a more concise and conscious way. So those are the capabilities that like an engineer skill built in the system, in the LLM system. But yeah, we do not decide, okay, we what we have to change. So that's probably go on the PM and maybe on the design side.
I'm gonna advocate for the design because the PM already has its role, and it's not about it's about owning business decisions and aligning with the client and ensuring requirements are met. But the designer, come on, It's the owner. It's its role. It's the one that makes the user testings and also make sure that the prompting it's working as it expected. So I'm a full advocate for the designer.
I feel like I've seen places where, and I don't know if there's ever really a clear boundary or like ownership of who owns it, because it seems like it's such a collaboration between design and engineering, which I actually really like. I think it's interesting to see how we can kind of play with each other and create those prompts together. But I feel like there's almost, I guess it depends on your role in your organization, but I forgot I was going with this, but yeah, I haven't seen a clear set, and I don't want us to take like a hard stance on like design needs to own it, because I do think that whoever owns it, design needs to be a big part of it, like advocate. And I don't know if that's me. I don't think that's me, but I just think that we need to be in the process, like heavily in the process, whether we own it or not. Whoever owns it, we just really have to be involved, I think.
But there's to like I see a difference between responsibility that for me is ownership and collaboration. I mean, I'm totally in with all of you that it's a close collaboration between different roles. But at the end of the day, someone needs to be responsible for the end, no, or for the results, and that needs to be one person. That's not, those roles cannot be shared, because then things doesn't get done. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying, no?
I hear both. I hear Emily, because I know there are so many. I talk in meeting a lot of people in different teams. I feel like I've never met a team structure that was one-to-one in many different companies, and you'll have different kinds of roles. Like we're talking about PMs, but what if you have a PM and a AI program manager and a conversation designer and a QA specialist? So like all of that kind of gets muddled. And again, we're in this space where all of our roles are, everyone is kind of doing a little bit of everything. But yes, like one person be the owner and point person, but everybody document, right? We're all going to document so we know what the status is at, and anybody can jump in or not jump in, specifically to tell people, do not do anything to my A/B test right now, because I need these numbers. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
I was seeing an interesting question come in on the chat that I wanted to flag, which is on whether we have any thoughts, experiences on automating your documentation using AI.
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever experimented with that.
I mean, depends on how laterally we take the documentation topic, but yeah.
I can add from.
Oh,
Did he?
They add and create the documentation. If you have some system that's functioning and you want it to just create documentation, it creates, but it's not 100%. It may miss some of the important logical flows in the system, so it often required you to write those things by yourself. So it is possible, we are doing it, but it's not 100% that we can rely on it.
Right.
sorry, I think we missed the first part. Did you say you're using some kind of ChatGPT, or what was the thing that you said you're using?
I mean, the integrated co-pilots who are like enough to generate this documentation. But there are some other open source projects that's going on also, is like generating the documents or the business rules by following a code. So let's suppose we have some certain logic written in the banking system where you do some transactions, like all the old banking system, and you wanted to understand how it's working. The normal way right now is you go and read through the codes and try to see, okay, this is happening, this not, this happening, this. But there are some projects that's going on where LLM will go through it and generate the map and give you the build structure document and all the business rules that you can keep it as a source of truth. And when anything changes on the code, you can just generate this business rules again, so that anyone can read it easily and adapt to the system.
Anyone else is exploring AI documentation for AI?
I mean, it could be interesting if you have the time also to generate the rule to, I don't know, let's say that you generate a rule that every time I change something in the prompt and you save and then you do so, you throw some testing, you save it in Git. Maybe that can be like something interesting to try. But besides automating like the process of saving, I don't know if I would let AI without an overview of what is happening to document everything. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like, Sarah, I think that idea is a really good idea to test. Like, I haven't thought about doing that before, but I like your idea. But I also haven't explored doing this, but now it's giving me ideas for testing to see if it works. But I definitely think you need to review what's being documented. I wouldn't trust it entirely.
Yeah, it will also depend. It also depends on the content. Like documenting a flow or code could be easy, but if you ask LLM to document the Figma design and define the user flow, it will die. So you don't understand like how the first user will interaction, which button will click. So yeah, it's very subjective on the which part of your process you want.
Yeah, I think the thing that I want to add is like for small things that are like very like easy to document, I think that's like a very great use case for automation. But I think for like more purpose oriented information, I think I don't know, call me old school maybe, but I think those have to be like written down by the expert, because otherwise you're not the expert about like when it comes to the design. Like I feel like every time I generate something, I don't actually know what like the nitty gritty of what has been generated, and yeah, it's really hard to um, uh, uh, answer informed questions about your design when you actually haven't like done the work.
I mean, even I don't know, like for example, I'm using like a lot of times like Anthropic or ChatGPT or whatever to like iterate on prompts themselves. But then even then when you ask like what did you change, then the response is so often not what it changed. Like it's like so hard, and then it feels like, okay, I could have just looked at the whole prompt and maybe I would have found it easier, or just pasted it in Git and it would show me what was the difference between the one and the other. It's like, yeah, at some point I feel like it gets so circular. It's AI creating AI that documents AI, and it's like what is happening? Yeah, sorry, I had a little rant there.
No, that is a topic that we should be talking about, because at some point all the content out there is going to be AI generated and it's going to be eating itself, and then what then?
Then we're going to start eating ourselves.
That is such a scary reality to me. I feel like that's really scary to me that it's going to happen. And yeah, I'll let Abhinav go.
Yeah, I mean, similar thought I also have. Like, definitely soon in few years, like we will have AI written by AI. And in terms of documentation or specific, like anything that we are generating the content, I think the human in the loop is very important part, and it should be also practice in a way. So anything, even we generate the doc and share with the team, we started like mentioning generated by this AI but reviewed by this person. So you cannot just by seeing the document pre-assume that it is written by a human. You see, okay, it's generated by it and it's reviewed by some human, and that is something that I think it just started being practiced in multiple organization. And so I think this way we may be safer a bit, while authoring what we are sharing with different stakeholders, the authority is like kind of important. You cannot put everything what is generated by the AI and then share with everyone, right? So
I feel like this could be a topic on its own. We
yeah.
can go down a philosophical rabbit hole here. But to move on, if no one else has any thoughts on that, so far we've been talking about documenting prompts. I'm curious how you guys work with content teams, because our LLMs feed off of the Help Center knowledge-based articles. So how do you create that feedback to the content team? Because I'm assuming it's not you. I'm hoping no one out there is saying you own the Help Center article and you own the LLM experience as well. I'm sure that we're all kind of collaborating in some capacity with a content team. So how do you track those changes? Like you see, you worked with a prompt, there was an output, and it turned out it was a gap in your knowledge base. So they fixed that, and then you test again. Like how do you keep that going, and how do you document that? If anyone has any experience.
I'm gonna jump at not so much on the maintenance side of it, but on the setup of the rack, no? So when we are setting up racks, because we work with fast-paced projects also, we work together with the client to understand what type of documents do they have, and then we work with them the type of scoring. But usually they have, or at least the best practice will be that they have a database with that documentation, and you just establish some sort of periodic actualization. Is that the word? Like, is that the word? To actualize? To set up? Yeah. I don't know, every morning, or it depends also, no? Like you talk to them on how often do they update the content, and then set up the frequency of the update accordingly. But then you first understand the document types, and then you're setting up the structure, and then it's just like an automatic process. I don't know if someone else has a different experience.
I feel like nobody jumped into super fast, but I will say that I feel like maybe along kind of the same lines as Sara, is that I've really focused a lot with maybe clients or in the past with setting up that content. So really getting it ready to be indexed, retrieved, set up in the right way with formatting, making sure that like a bot can read it. And so I feel like I've worked more on that side of getting it ready versus the updating longer term and like figuring out how to do that. But I think that that's something that I'd like to see, I guess, worked on a little bit more and like more focus on.
Yeah. I know one of the challenges, because I'm thinking about companies who update their products every single day and the whole team is not aware of it, because just how do you pass along that information so quickly when everyone's moving at such breakneck speed now because of AI? So a lot of the times I find with an LLM experience attached to that kind of knowledge base where stale content happens all the time now, you don't catch it anymore. Before it's the LLM catching it, your customers are catching it because they ask a question that you couldn't think of, that the content team couldn't think of, because there's just so much to constantly be updating.
Yeah, I think like even if your knowledge base would be updating dynamically, I think like if you don't update the system prompt accordingly to know which sources to retrieve or stuff like that, then like it's not going to have any impact because it's not going to work together. So yeah, there needs to be a loop for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, there's also the changing the knowledge base articles as way of testing of like, can we make the content better, like as it is used by the AI agent, which is a different question, because then it's like, oh, we're actually changing it for the explicit purpose of not like there's an update, but it's like, oh, maybe if we phrase things differently, it has a better effect. I don't know if anyone has like experimented with this side of things.
I think like giving your knowledge base articles like a very clear name does not only help documentation for the humans, like to understand what is behind this file name, for example, but also will help the LLM or the AI to understand which sources to retrieve for a certain query. Yeah, I guess like tagging the different knowledge base articles to explicitly map them to a certain part of the conversation flow that should happen also helps keep everything neat and organized.
That sort of ties up with what Abhinav was saying at the beginning, that everything needs to be very detailed described, and descriptions have to be very specific and don't leave sort of anything to the imagination.
On that front, I also see a comment from our LinkedIn user. I would like to build a doc bot that uses a knowledge base with all the documentation, so you can ask it question about the documentation. Would be one of way to automate it. And this feature is already exist in the
Yes,
GitHub
Copilot.
Copilot. Yeah. So basically, any repository in the world, you go there and you don't know what it does. You can ask those questions. You will get the answer. Not only you will get the answer, you can also ask some questions with the possibilities. Is there a function exist in this whole repository that does this particular job or no? You say, okay, this does not exist. So basically, you get the answers along with the what currently exists, what currently does not exist, and same time you can also iterate it on that. Okay, what I need to be do to implement this, I need to give you the hint. So I think it works in a way. It read everything, adapt, and then start answering you the question as a as a human. So this already exists, and so I just wanted to add this for a dog bot that is being mentioned by our LinkedIn user.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's a great point.
I have a question for the round, because with all of these topics regarding the RAG as well, it's coming to mind. How are all of you doing the monitoring and the testing of your AI solutions? Have you automated like regression testing? Like, how's the process change?
So
Is it more like a manual labor for
you
you?
you asking about the testing, basically how we evaluate the systems.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
It's like the
I
quality
think
and also the experience. Yeah, if it's hallucinating or not. It's like, how are you like monitoring and documenting all of that?
I mean, traditionally in the dialog trees prompts, I think what we used to do is like manual evaluation, and nowadays the LLM got cheaper also, so we can also do evaluation based on an LLM. So just create and train an LLM as a customer and give us some scenarios, and then try to interact the whole conversation with the real LLM. So one LLM will be the product itself, and another LLM will be, you can say, the judge. So it can try to evaluate. So the scenario could be ask for some products and see in how many instruction you get this result. So maybe currently you are getting it in four instruction or five instruction, but something you change in the prompts or something has changed in the system, and now you wanted to evaluate this, and this time you will either get into the first or maybe get it on the 10th. So this way it could be like automated on a large scale, where the different situations, scenarios can be replicated on a large level. We cannot just go through with certain scenarios and say our system are foolproof and we'll evaluate it, because when you provide an open-ended box to user, they can put anything in that box. So that's the way I think industries also started to doing it, LLM as a judge, and where you can just deploy it. It automatically creates some scenarios depending on what are the instruction to the original LLM, and then try to execute it in an automated way so you get the results and get like less manual testing there.
Yeah. Marlinda and Giulia, you just gave a talk about this topic, right? At Agentic. So it's more about kind of like the mapping out what we expect instead of actually mapping out. Yeah.
Which sometimes is a hard question in itself, right? Like we don't even can say exactly what are we looking for. I think this is sometimes even the hard part of like building an eval, because it's like, oh yeah, it's like tone of voice and it's resolution and it's some categories come to mind, but it's hard to define exactly what is a good conversation. And that's, I think, the starting point, whether you're doing human, hybrid, QA, or LLM is that's going to be the first and most hard part to define, and it will change probably in time. So yes, it's a big topic.
I think your resourcing and the tooling too that you will use, and I think a lot of people want to have those perfectly predefined, signals, I call them, what it is that you're going to measure. But like what Giulia said, I think when you start seeing results, you're going to have to iterate. And so even your QA metrics and what you look for you'll have to be flexible with how you think about like what things you're going to look for, because you will be surprised all the time. Something that you didn't expect will come up for sure. And then you change your rubric again, and then you document it, and then you tell everyone what you just documented. Yeah.
Emily, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was a while back. I think I think some of like the hybrid testing, so where you're actually doing testing with people, and then also some of that automated testing, just because with this kind of new world of technology, you really need to do more testing, like just larger testing, and finding more edge cases or finding patterns in some of the issues. And I feel like sometimes when you automate that, you can find those patterns in like a larger data set. So I think like a hybrid approach is really great. And then always having those humans or expert in the loop to review. Yeah.
But tying this, because I think this is a great question that Sara asked also, like regarding testing, like do you have also, since we're talking about documentation, ways of like documenting, oh, these are our test cases we always keep, or like do you do any of the documentation for things you want to always test, or anything around that that you want to mention?
Is that question for
the panel? So
okay. I'll just go ahead. In our case, we are transitioning to this methodology that Abhinav called LLM as a judge. We have developed our own framework and definitions, and what we're doing is that we're just generating I don't know, like between 500 to 1,000 conversations, and then we use that until we get the metrics that we want. But this is before going to production, right? So when going to production, you can actually use real conversations then and use the LLM as a judge. But between, yeah, we use the same set, so to speak.
anyone else have things they want to share on this? Okay, maybe we're coming close to the end, but one thing we raised at the beginning was like around collaboration. And I was wondering if you have any tips or like ways that, you know, different roles will interact with your documentation that make you like aware of like, oh, I always need to make sure I include this aspect to my documentation. Like, what are aspects of documentation that you intentionally add or remove or create so that it can facilitate collaboration with the different people that will need to access it?
I feel like as a designer, you always are kind of the middle person between the more technical people and the less technical people, and you kind of facilitate between those two groups. I think those aspects are still going to be super important. Like if it is like, I don't know, here in the conversation flow, we have to include like call an API, and now like speaking of back in the day with NLU systems, and nowadays it's like more concerning how a prompt should work. But yeah, I think that's my input.
Yeah, I think thinking about collaboration, I feel like especially with QA, if you have a QA team, they need to know what's expected, like what's a pass and what's a fail. And I know that I've had an aha moment before when I was documenting. I didn't really think in terms of, okay, now who's going to use my documentation and what do they need to see? And when they're asking me questions, is this expected or not? I'm like, shoot, really need to have something in here that outlines kind of what I'm looking for. So it doesn't have to be exact, but it should include some of these points, or it should have this sort of idea. So I feel like for collaboration, having a shared understanding of language, what you're using for each term, I feel like is really important. Having like that baseline understanding that we're all using the same language and the same terminology. When I say prompt, it means the like system prompt and not what you're prompting the user, for example, and just other things like that. I feel like staying on the same terminology is important. So the language you use, what you include based on whoever's viewing it, and making sure that it's something that can be used by different teams. So something that I've thought about.
Such a good point. I feel like also now with agents, and there's multiple agents within the agent, and which agent are we referring to? It gets so messy so easily. It's a great point.
For me, a tip would be to try to document as is someone new who's going to jump into the project and just needs also to understand the whole picture. So some sort of a storyline behind also how the different documents are coming together, no, to create the bigger story.
I feel like, Sara, I've had a moment where I've tried to walk through. I wanted to get feedback from another designer, and I realized I should be able to walk through my documentation easily and quickly, and it should understand. And I shouldn't have to stop and say, "Oh wait, but I've got to have this over here, and I have this." Like you should be able to walk through something, and I feel like that's something that has given me an aha. Like, oh, I should be able to easily translate this to someone else whenever that could happen. Yeah, being able to hand off too.
Yeah, I would also like to add another point to Emily what you mentioned about a shared understanding among the team member, and also that's I guess the base for collaboration, because in the prompting world, everyone have a different style of writing prompts. So if I ask someone to write a prompt for this assistant to not to entertain relationship queries, so maybe that person will only write, "Hey, do not entertain any relationship queries." But another person would have a different understanding. He said, "Okay, what it does, it is a travel agent." So you'll write, "Do not entertain any query apart from the travels." So that understanding, it has to be in the team and has to be in the among the whole team. So you know what tone you are building for the assistant. So if it is differentiated, like in some parts you say do this, in some part you say just do this apart from everything. So it could be like a mismatch, and at the end, like, you will not able to figure it out, like why some person has written these kind of prompts. So that understanding is quite important among the teams.
That's very good input. I see we're getting close to the end. I wonder if we managed to do like a very quick round where everyone can just give one piece of advice, since we said, yeah, I mean, now we're all onto our projects, but like, let's imagine someone is asking you for advice and they're starting their new project tomorrow on conversational AI. What would be your best one-off tip of like what they should do around documentation?
From my side, I would add first um, to use the AI system that is available that makes our life easier. Because sometimes those tools are available, and I personally, as an engineer, I was not using it. And when someday I tried it just for a random thing, and it turns out to be wow. And now I think if I have tried from last 1 month, whatever time I spent on some certain problem for like 2 hours, I would have spent in like 15 minutes. So, what tools that are available in your work domain, and to use it and to experiment those. 10% works very well as today's, I would say, and maybe some not work, but some are really good, and that basically make us faster.
I think I would say don't spend too much time coming up with the system or with the documentation system. Don't plan the plan too long. Just actually document. Like use a quick change log, date, what changed, what am I expecting, and that's it. Like just use a spreadsheet if you have to, even if you hate spreadsheets. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think the tool you're using is less important than why you're doing it. So it's not just like a handoff document. It's helping everyone understand kind of that invisible layer. And I feel like you need to document the why, and you need to remember who it's for. It's for everybody. It's that translation. It's so hard to come up with like one, but I feel like that's like mainly what I'm thinking about. And then be organized as you can. And I also want to see people in the chat. I want to see what other people have too. If anyone else has like one big advice for someone, I want to see it too.
Sara, did you want to add your piece of advice?
I think everybody has covered pretty much everything. I'm just going to point out that dates are very important. And it's also very important not to leave it for later, because later you won't do it. It's like a part of the moment and the process.
That is a very important point.
Yeah, like if you're working on a ticket, actually just put documentation as a subtask, and you're not allowed to close the ticket unless you finish the documentation subtask.
Love it.
Non-negotiable.
Document that you need to document.
We include that in our planning because this is so essential. Like you need to account for it. You need time, and it's not skippable.
Love it. Thank you all so much for bringing these perspectives and these tips. I feel like there's t-shirt materials with these quotes. But yeah, Marlinda, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else before we wrap.
No, not anything about documentation. What Abhinav made me think. This is a tangent, guys. Anytime I hear people say using an LLM or AI makes what used to take me a month can now take me an hour, and I'm always like, okay, great, I can rest for the rest of the month now, right? Because I finished my work in an hour. But no, that's not what we're doing. Why? That's it. That's what I'm leaving you all with.
I mean, just don't tell the others you're using the Copilot. Just
so don't tell people that you're done.
In business terms, it reduces time to go to the market, right? Gives a lot of things to play to the user. So that's what like it is.
You need that time for testing. No.
No rest. Okay, Marlinda, you lazy ass. Okay.
No rest, just test.
It's a good one too.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, I feel like we've reached the delirious hour of this panel. Thank you all so much for sharing your insights tonight. We have another amazing panel planned for next week, which will be about how to implement LLMs. We talk about LLMs all the time, but the question of how is still like top of mind for everyone, I feel like. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, thanks everyone again for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, girls, for putting it together. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.